the illusion of pleasure as freedom. What if the very thing you chase as freedom is actually your cage? Pleasure whispers that it liberates you. One more indulgence, one more comfort, one more hour of ease, yet each surrender tightens its grip. A man who obeys every craving is not free. He is a servant wearing the mask of a king. True freedom is not the absence of restriction, but the presence of command over oneself. When appetite rules the mind no longer belongs to the man, it belongs to the appetite. This is the great deception of pleasure. It promises expansion, but delivers shrinkage. It promises power, but delivers dependency. The soul that cannot say no to comfort has already said yes to weakness. Discipline, on the other hand, looks like restriction from the outside, but feels like liberation from within, because the disciplined man answers to no urge, no mood, no fleeting desire. He moves through the world untethered while the pleasure seeker is dragged by invisible chains he mistakes for choices. Ask yourself honestly, are you choosing your life, or is your life being chosen for you by whatever feels good in the moment? The throne of the self is either occupied by reason or hijacked by impulse. There is no third option. Choose wisely, because this choice, repeated daily, becomes your character, and character becomes destiny. Discipline as the foundation of true power. What if power was never about controlling others, but about controlling yourself first? Every empire that ever crumbled did not fall because its enemies were strong. It fell because its rulers grew soft. Discipline is the invisible architecture behind every lasting achievement, while pleasure is the invisible termite that eats away at foundations no one can see collapsing until it's too late. A disciplined man rises before comfort demands he stay in bed. He works before recognition arrives. He trains his body not to look admired, but to remain capable when life demands strength. He studies not to impress, but to think clearly when chaos arrives, because chaos always arrives. This is the quiet, unglamorous power that pleasure can never offer. Pleasure gives a moment, discipline builds a life. The world rewards those who can delay gratification, who can sit with discomfort without flinching, who can say, "not yet," to the very things that promise instant relief. Real power is not loud. It does not need applause. It is the calm certainty of a man who has already conquered his weakest impulses and therefore fears nothing the outside world can throw at him. While others are ruled by circumstance, the disciplined man rules his response to circumstance, and that, ultimately, is the only kingdom worth governing. The war within. Conquering the self before conquering the world. What if the greatest battlefield you will ever face is not out there, but inside your own mind? Every man wages two wars simultaneously, one against the world and one against himself, and the second war determines the outcome of the first. Anger, envy, laziness, fear, and craving are silent enemies that never announce their attack. They simply erode you from within until one day you wonder why you feel defeated despite never losing an outward battle. To conquer nations while remaining a slave to your own temper is no victory at all. It is tragedy wearing a crown. The wise man understands that self-mastery is the prerequisite for any mastery beyond himself. Before you can lead others, you must first lead your own thoughts. Before you can build anything lasting, you must first tear down the undisciplined habits quietly sabotaging you. This inner war is fought in small, unseen moments. The choice to wake early instead of oversleeping. The choice to stay calm instead of exploding. The choice to finish what is hard instead of chasing what is easy. No one applauds these victories, yet they are the only victories that matter, because they compound silently until one day you look back and realize you have become someone unrecognizable to your former undisciplined self. Stronger, steadier, and finally free. Silence, solitude, and the rejection of public applause? What if the noise you crave, attention, approval, applause, is quietly stealing your peace? A man addicted to the opinions of others has handed his happiness to strangers who will forget him by tomorrow. Discipline requires the courage to act rightly even when no one is watching, and especially when no one will ever know. The pleasure-driven mind performs for an audience. The disciplined mind answers only to its own conscience. This is why solitude is feared by so many. In silence, there is no applause to numb the truth about who you really are. Yet it is precisely in that silence that character is forged, because silence does not lie to you the way a crowd can. A crowd will praise you for things that do not matter and stay silent about the things that do. Choosing discipline often means walking a path no one claps for, early mornings alone, quiet sacrifices unseen, private battles no one will ever post about. But the man who no longer needs applause becomes untouchable by criticism too, because both come from the same source, other people's opinions. Free yourself from needing to be seen, and you free yourself from the fear of being judged. In that freedom, real strength grows, quiet, rooted and immune to the noise of a world constantly performing for attention it will never remember giving. Suffering as a teacher, not an enemy. What if the very pain you are running from is the only thing capable of making you unbreakable? Pleasure teaches you nothing except how to want more of itself. Suffering, uncomfortable as it is, teaches patience, humility, resilience, and clarity that comfort could never provide. Every hardship carries a hidden curriculum, and the undisciplined man skips class every time he chooses ease over endurance. Cold mornings, difficult conversations, physical exhaustion, disappointment, loss. These are not punishments. They are training. The body that never faces resistance grows weak. The mind that never faces difficulty grows fragile. A life engineered entirely around comfort produces a person who shatters at the first real obstacle because he has never practiced standing back up. Meanwhile, the disciplined man welcomes discomfort as a forge, not because he enjoys pain, but because he understands what it produces. Every difficulty survived becomes evidence, proof stored deep within that future difficulties can be survived too. This is how unshakable confidence is actually built, not through empty affirmations, but through a track record of enduring what once felt unbearable. Stop asking why hardship is happening to you and start asking what it is trying to teach you. The moment you shift from resentment to curiosity, suffering stops being your enemy and becomes quietly your greatest teacher. Legacy born from restraint, not indulgence. What if everything you will be remembered for depends entirely on what you were willing to say no to? No one is remembered for the comforts they consumed. No one tells stories about the naps taken, the temptations indulged, the easy paths chosen. Legacy is built exclusively from restraint. The discipline to keep going when quitting was easier. The integrity to stay honest when lying was convenient. The patience to build slowly when shortcuts were tempting. Every great structure, every enduring idea, every respected name across history was built by someone who chose the harder, disciplined path, while everyone around them chose comfort. Pleasure is forgotten the moment it ends. Discipline is remembered because its results outlive the person who practiced it. Ask what you want carved into the memory of those who come after you, a man who indulged every whim or a man who mastered himself and left something greater than his own comfort behind. The choice you make daily, in the smallest unseen moments, is quietly writing that legacy right now, whether you notice it or not. Discipline today is not a burden. It is a letter written to your future self and to everyone who will one day stand where you once stood, needing proof that restraint, not indulgence, is what true greatness has always been made of. What if the throne you fear losing is not made of gold, but of self-control? What if every empire you admire, every name history refuses to forget, was built not by a man who chased pleasure, but by a man who conquered it. There once sat a ruler at the center of the greatest power his world had ever known. Every comfort imaginable was his for the taking. Every appetite could be satisfied with a single word. And yet this man chose cold mornings over warm beds, discipline over indulgence, duty over desire. Not because pleasure was forbidden to him, but because he understood something most men never do, that the man who cannot rule himself has no true right to rule anything else. He knew that pleasure is a liar. It promises freedom and delivers dependency. It promises relief and delivers weakness. Every time he silenced a craving, he was not punishing himself, he was freeing himself. While lesser men were ruled by their impulses, he ruled his mind, and in ruling his mind, he ruled everything else with a calm no crisis could shake. He understood that the real war is fought within, against anger, against comfort, against the constant pull toward ease. He fought that war daily in silence, with no audience and no applause, because he knew character is built in the moments no one is watching. He did not need approval, because he had already earned his own respect, the only approval that cannot be taken from you. He welcomed hardship as a teacher rather than an enemy, understanding that comfort builds nothing, while resistance builds everything. Every difficulty he endured became proof he could endure the next one, until finally nothing outside of him could shake what he had built inside of him. And so his legacy was not written by the pleasures he consumed, but by the discipline he practiced when no one was looking. That is the difference between a name forgotten by history and a name history refuses to let go of. The question was never whether he had the power to indulge. The question was always whether he had the strength to refuse. And in choosing discipline over pleasure, again and again in silence without applause, he became something far greater than a man who ruled an empire. He became a man who first ruled himself. The lesson stands as true today as it ever has. Power without self-mastery is fragile, and pleasure without discipline is a slow, comfortable collapse. The greatest throne any of us will ever sit upon is the throne of our own mind. And every single day, through the smallest choices, we decide whether we rule it or whether it rules us. Choose discipline, not because pleasure is evil, but because discipline is what makes freedom, strength, and legacy actually possible. The path is harder, quieter, and far less applauded, but it is the only path that leads somewhere worth arriving. What if the most powerful man in the world woke up every single day and chose discomfort on purpose? No servants forcing him, no punishment waiting, just a mind so disciplined it refused to be ruled by comfort. While others chased pleasure, he chased mastery. While others slept in, he trained his will before the sun even rose. He had every reason to indulge, unlimited power, unlimited access, unlimited excuse, and he refused all of it every single day in silence, with no one clapping. Because he understood a truth most people never learn. Pleasure fades the moment it ends, but discipline compounds until it becomes unstoppable. He wasn't remembered for what he consumed, he was remembered for what he conquered, starting with himself. So ask yourself right now, today, are you building a life of comfort you'll forget, or a life of discipline the world won't be able to ignore? The choice is yours. It always was. The question was never whether he had the power to indulge. The question was always whether he had the strength to refuse. And in choosing discipline over pleasure, again and again, in silence, without applause, he became something far greater than a man who ruled an empire. He became a man who first ruled himself. The lesson stands as true today as it ever has. Power without self-mastery is fragile, and pleasure without discipline is a slow, comfortable